Ever feel like your city's budget is this giant, locked box?
Yeah.
Today, we're prying open that box, folks.
We're going deep.
Get ready for a deep dive into San Francisco Board of Supervisors meeting minutes. Your ticket to understanding what your elected officials are really spending their time on.
We're talking about the stuff that really, the decisions that shape your streets, parks, your everyday life. And trust me, it's way more interesting than it sounds.
Way more. We're looking at the minutes from May 7th, 14th, and 21st of 2024.
Okay.
3 weeks in the life of San Francisco's government.
Right.
But don't worry, we're not going line by line through these things.
No.
We're here for the really good stuff.
The good stuff.
Surprising spending decisions, right?
Yeah.
Hidden dramas.
Oh, yeah.
And most importantly, the stuff that affects you.
Think of it this way.
Okay.
These meeting minutes are like a big puzzle. We're going to put the pieces together and then you see the bigger picture of what's happening in San Francisco.
I like it.
Yeah.
So, quick overview. We've got the Board of Supervisors, 11 members representing all the different districts.
Right.
They meet regularly, hash things out, and vote on, well, everything.
Yeah, and seriously, everything.
Yeah.
From the laws to how they spend your tax dollars, it all starts with these meetings.
Which brings us to city spending.
Everybody wants to know.
Yeah, where's the money going? The May 7th minutes had a doozy, an $800,000 settlement for a lawsuit.
Ooh.
Yeah, someone tripped on the sidewalk.
Oh.
Wasn't pretty.
Okay, so this lawsuit, though, this is about more than just one person tripping. This points to a much bigger problem. Aging infrastructure and what it costs the city.
So you're saying all those cracks in the sidewalks, those potholes, they're not just annoyances, they're potential lawsuits waiting to happen.
Exactly. And those lawsuits, they add up. The city's constantly trying to figure out, is it cheaper to fix the problem or just wait and get sued?
So this $800,000, it's not just about one lawsuit, it's about a potential pattern.
Exactly. This is San Francisco, right? Charming city, but the infrastructure, it's got some, shall we say, character. Sometimes it's actually cheaper to settle than to fight it out in court.
Really?
It's wild, right?
That is wild.
But that's the calculation they're making. It's a risk, but sometimes it's the less expensive option.
So it's budget Jenga, basically.
Kinda, yeah. It makes you think about those little infrastructure things differently. They're a much bigger deal in the city's budget than you might realize.
Okay, so lawsuits are eating up money.
Yeah.
But the minutes also showed big spending on housing initiatives, which is good, right? Millions going to all kinds of programs, including a big chunk of change for a new 146-unit supportive housing project.
Right.
Is the city finally getting serious about this housing crisis?
It seems like they're at least putting their money where their mouth is. This project, which it actually comes up in the May 7th and 21st minutes, suggests a commitment to creating more affordable housing options. And we all know how crazy expensive rent is here.
And it's not just about putting a roof over people's heads.
Right.
Supportive housing usually has other services, right?
Okay. Absolutely. It's about giving people a real safety net. People who are struggling with homelessness, mental health issues, substance abuse. This kind of housing isn't just about surviving. It's about getting back on your feet.
Okay, so we're talking millions for this project, but San Francisco's budget is huge.
Right, right.
Is this really going to move the needle on the housing crisis? Or is it just a drop in the bucket?
That is the million-dollar question, right? And honestly, it's too early to say. It's a good chunk of money, sure, but it's still a tiny piece of the overall budget.
Yeah.
What really matters is if this money actually helps people. It's about real change, not just numbers.
Right. Fancy new building doesn't help if it's empty or if people can't get back on their feet.
Exactly. And that's something we always have to think about with these spending projects. Are they actually creating solutions?
Okay, so lawsuits, housing. There's another thing in the May 7th minutes, a $150,000 grant to the public defender's pretrial release unit. I don't know about you, but I was like, what in the world is that?
It sounds a lot more complicated than it is. Basically, this unit is all about making the justice system fairer. They work to get people out of jail who are waiting for their trial but can't afford bail.
So they're trying to make sure that your ability to pay doesn't mean you're stuck in jail.
Exactly. This grant shows that maybe, just maybe, Things are moving towards a system that gives everyone a fair shot.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely.
This grant, even though it's small, it feels like it's part of a bigger conversation in San Francisco and across the country.
Oh, absolutely. It's like this whole movement about mass incarceration, right?
Yeah.
Racial bias in the justice system. It's amazing to see those big ideas show up in these meeting minutes.
Yeah, it's like this behind-the-scenes look at how San Francisco is dealing with these really complicated problems.
Absolutely, and that's what makes this so fascinating. It's not just about the dollars and cents, it's about the stories behind them.
The stories, yeah.
Speaking of stories, there's this really sweet tribute to a retiring childcare worker in those May 7th minutes.
Really? I think I skimmed over that part.
The board took the time to, really recognize Margaret Thrupp. She worked at Telhi Cooperative for forever. It's a childcare center here in San Francisco.
Wow, decades at the same place.
Decades. It's amazing, right?
Talk about commitment.
And Telhi itself, they've been around forever, providing affordable childcare to San Francisco families for generations, Yep. Honoring Margaret. It wasn't just about one person. It was about what places like Telhi mean to the city.
It's a good point. It's easy to focus on the big picture stuff,
Right.
the budget, the laws, all that. But it's those little details, those personal stories that really tell you what a city is all about.
Totally. And sometimes those stories, they're literally written into the city itself.
Oh, you mean like that street naming ceremony?
Yes.
Midge Wilson Alley.
Yeah.
From the May 14th minutes.
Exactly.
That one definitely caught my eye. Who was Midge Wilson? What makes her worthy of a street name?
Well, she wasn't a politician. Not some big shot donor or anything.
Okay.
Midge was a community activist, spent her life making the Tenderloin better for kids and families.
The Tenderloin, that's a neighborhood that's seen its fair share of, challenges.
You can see that again. But to Midge, it was home. And she didn't shy away from the problems there. She tackled them head on.
What did she do?
Organizing food drives, fighting for better housing, mentoring young people. I mean, she was a true local hero.
Yeah.
This street naming, that's the city saying, thank you, Midge. We won't forget you.
It's like this little ray of hope, amidst all the serious stuff. It reminds you that even in a city as big and complicated as San Francisco, it's often just regular people who make the biggest difference.
Absolutely, and that community spirit. It popped up in another interesting way, too. The board was talking about trying to get a major international film festival to come to San Francisco.
Wait a second. San Francisco doesn't already have a big film festival? I mean, it seems like the perfect city for that.
You'd think so, right? But this discussion in the May 7th minutes, it tells me they're thinking bigger. They want a festival with real global star power.
Okay, so bigger names, bigger films, bigger crowds.
Right.
What's the thinking there? Just bragging rights.
It's definitely about putting San Francisco on the map, internationally speaking. But it's also about money.
Right.
These festivals bring in tourists. They create jobs. They generate buzz.
Right.
It's a way to show off the city's cultural side. Maybe attract some more investment,
Yeah. But big events also mean big headaches. Right.
Oh, tell me about it. Traffic nightmares.
Right.
Noise complaints. Resources stretched thin. And then there's the whole issue of pushing out local businesses.
Oh, yeah. That's always a concern.
And what about the residents?
Yeah. It's complicated. Lots to think about. It sounds like the board has some tough decisions to make before they roll out the red carpet for a film festival.
Yeah, it's not a simple decision. And, that brings up another big theme from these minutes. Conflict.
Conflict.
Yeah, because even in San Francisco, where, everyone seems to get along,
right,
there are always disagreements, especially when you start talking about money and development projects.
Well, yeah, not everyone's going to agree on the best way to spend those tax dollars.
Exactly. Remember those assessment costs we were talking about earlier?
You mean for sidewalk repairs?
Yes. And for dealing with those rundown properties.
Okay.
Well, let's just say those assessments got people fired up during the public comment periods in May.
Really?
Oh, yeah. People were not happy about potentially having to pay for those improvements.
So they let the board have it.
Let them have it. There were some speeches made, let me tell you. People were passionate about this.
I bet.
Especially those who are on fixed incomes, or already struggling to make ends meet. It shows you that even these small decisions, they can have a huge impact on people's lives.
Oh, absolutely. And those public comment periods, those are important, right?
Absolutely. That's people's chance to hold their elected officials accountable, to make their voices heard.
Speaking of making their voices heard, didn't Supervisor Safai and Mayor Breed have a bit of a disagreement in one of those May meetings? Something about sober living homes, right?
Oh, yeah, that was quite the moment.
Yeah.
May 21st, I think. Supervisor Safai, he was really pushing for a new sober living facility in his district, but Mayor Breed, she seemed hesitant, talking about how hard it is to find a good location, get the community on board.
Yeah, and it's got to be tough too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Supervisor Safai probably responding to what he's seeing in his district.
Right.
Maybe a rise in homelessness or substance abuse.
Absolutely.
And then Mayor Breed has to think about the whole city.
Yeah.
Trying to balance the needs of one neighborhood against, the concerns of others.
And let's be real for a sec. Sober living homes,
Yeah.
they can be controversial.
Oh, totally.
People worry about property values, their safety.
Mm-hmm.
It's complicated, right?
It is.
There are no easy answers.
Go.
But the important thing is at least these conversations are happening.
Right.
They're right there in the meeting minutes, out in the open.
Out in the open.
It shows that, the city is trying to deal with these really tough issues.
Even if they don't always have, all the answers.
Exactly. It's messy.
It is.
But it's how it's supposed to be, That's democracy.
Looks like we're getting this little peek behind the curtain.
Right.
Seeing how the sausage is made.
Exactly. And it reminds us that these issues we're talking about, they don't just exist in a vacuum,
Oh, for sure.
They're playing out in our neighborhoods, on our streets.
Right.
And ultimately, it's up to us to engage with these issues, to make our voices heard.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the San Francisco Board of Supervisor meetings,
Yeah.
what really stuck with you? What surprised you?
Honestly,
Yeah.
I was surprised by how much drama is hidden in these documents. I mean, we had lawsuits, we had those heartwarming tributes, we had these heated debates about really important social issues. It shows you that behind every single line in the budget, behind all those policy decisions, there are real people with real stories.
It's like we've been on this treasure hunt.
Yes.
Uncovering these hidden stories buried in these meeting minutes. I gotta say, I'm hooked.
Me too. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are, thousands of pages of meeting minutes out there for us to explore.
You're saying there might be even more juicy stuff waiting to be found.
Oh, I guarantee it.
All right, folks. I don't know about you, but I'm starting to feel like a city government detective.
I love it.
Ready to put on my deerstalker cap and dig into those archives.
We should invite our listeners to join us.
Yes, good idea. If you're feeling inspired, we'll put a link to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors website in our show notes.
Go check it out. You never know what you might discover.
Because knowledge is power.
Right on.
The more we know about how our local government works, the more we can actually make a difference.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, that's all the time we have for today, folks. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
It's been fun.
We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic, ready to unearth more hidden gems of knowledge.
Can't wait.